Station Krell sat at the edge of Valorian space, a massive structure floating in darkness. The station was old, built 300 years before the current time. Its metal hull had seen countless cycles of wear, and its systems ran on automatic protocols that no one questioned anymore. Officer Patricia Wells worked the observation deck because it was her job. She did not dream about the stars or wonder what lay beyond the mapped territories. She had worked this station for 12 years, and in those 12 years, she had seen nothing worth remembering. Merchant ships passed through. Salvage vessels came and went. The galaxy was empty and boring, and that was how it had always been. The alarm sound changed. Patricia's eyes snapped to the primary scanner screen. The tone was different from the standard warning sounds. This tone meant something the station had not encountered in decades. This tone meant unknown contact. She leaned forward and studied the readings. Her hands moved across the console, pulling data, checking calculations. The vessel was coming fast, but its trajectory was clear and direct. The ship was not trying to hide or maneuver. It was coming straight toward the station on a course that would pass within 5,000 kilometers. The ship itself was wrong. Patricia could see that immediately. The hull configuration did not match any known design. The propulsion signature was crude and simple, but it was working. The power output was low. The shielding was minimal. But there it was, an unknown vessel on an approach vector. Patricia activated the alert system and sent the data to her supervisor. Commander George Baldwin arrived 4 minutes later. He was old by Valorian standards, which meant he had lived through 3 centuries of watching nothing happen. Baldwin studied the readings and made a decision. He issued orders to monitor the vessel but maintain distance. The station would not raise shields. It would not go to battle stations. The protocol was clear: observe and report. The messages went up the chain of command. They traveled through secure channels to the main Valorian territories. By the time the messages arrived at the Council, Patricia Wells had moved on to other tasks. The unknown vessel would be handled by someone higher up. She had done her job, but she was wrong about one thing. The people higher up were not going to handle this with urgency or fear. They were going to handle it with routine and indifference. Inside the human vessel, Captain Linda Martinez sat in a command chair and watched the Valorian station grow larger on the screens. The station was massive. The design was alien in a way that she had not expected. The structures seemed to have no central logic to them. They just grew outward in different directions. Massive blocks of metal and systems stacked on top of each other. Linda had trained her entire life for this moment. She had gone through pilot training, then command school, then deep space certification. She had studied languages and protocols and diplomacy. She had volunteered for this mission because she believed in it. She believed that humanity needed to reach out into the galaxy. She believed that hiding on Earth would be death slowly applied. But now that she was here, now that the station was real and visible and approaching, she felt the weight of the decision. There were 120 people on her ship. If something went wrong, if these Valorians decided to attack, those people would die. She would be responsible for their deaths. Linda pushed the fear down. She had been trained to push fear down. All military officers were trained to separate their emotions from their duties. She turned to Lieutenant Kevin Sullivan at the communications station. Send a greeting sequence. Full power. All frequencies. Sullivan's hands moved across his station. The greeting sequence had been prepared by the team on Earth. A simple mathematical progression that would prove humans understood mathematics and logic. It was the most basic way to say hello to an alien species. It was crude, but it was honest. The transmission went out into the dark. Humans were now announcing themselves to the galaxy. There would be no taking it back. Patricia Wells watched the transmission come through. She looked at the data and understood what it meant. The unknown vessel was not attacking. It was talking. The message was mathematical and clean, and it was a greeting. She sent the information to Baldwin immediately. His reaction was what she expected. A cold acknowledgement. A routine decision to maintain current protocols. Nothing in Baldwin's tone suggested that history was being made. Linda Martinez waited for a response. Minutes passed. She had calculated that a response would take time. The Valorians would need to analyze the transmission, route it to higher authority, and make a decision. She had estimated 8 minutes. She had estimated wrong. A response came after 3 minutes. It was also mathematical, confirming that the Valorians had received and understood the message. The acknowledgement was clean and efficient, and utterly without emotion. Linda allowed herself one moment of relief. First contact had happened. Humanity was known now. Whatever came next, they were no longer alone and unknown in the galaxy. What she did not know was that in the Valorian territories, the news of humanity's presence was spreading through official channels and being met with casual indifference. Another primitive species. Another discovery. Nothing significant. The Valorian Council would decide to make official contact. They would send a proper diplomatic message. They would prepare protocols for interaction with this new species. But there was no urgency. There was no fear. The Valorian Empire had nothing to fear from any species. That assumption would prove to be a mistake. But the galaxy is patient, and mistakes take time to reveal themselves. For now, the first humans to make contact with an alien species waited in the cold dark of space, knowing that everything had changed and not knowing that far more was coming. Linda looked at the photograph of her daughter, clipped above her console. Sarah was 5 years old. She would grow up in a galaxy where humans were known and would eventually play a role. That thought was worth everything. Even the fear. Linda Martinez sent the message confirming that humanity was ready for official contact. The galaxy turned slowly, and nothing was ever going to be the same again. The Valorian Council chamber was designed to be impressive. The ceiling was high enough to seem infinite. The walls were polished to perfection. Holographic displays filled the space with information from across the Empire. Hundreds of worlds. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. The Valorian Empire was vast and powerful, and had not faced a real challenge in 10,000 years. When the reports came in about the human ship and the human greeting, the Council reviewed them the way they reviewed everything, with calm efficiency, with complete confidence in their own superiority. A decision was made. A delegation would be sent to meet with the humans. The humans would be treated with the respect due to a primitive species that had somehow managed space travel. They would be impressed by Valorian technology. They would be convinced of Valorian power. They would be grateful for the contact. This was how first contact always went. Linda Martinez led a team of 12 humans through the docking tube. The tube was a passage that connected the human ship to the Valorian station. It was transparent, and as they walked through, the humans could see the vast darkness of space on both sides. The station grew larger with every step. Linda wore a military uniform of Earth. It was simple, blue and gray. No fancy symbols or decoration, just function. Behind her came Commander Andrew Cross, the military officer who would handle tactical discussions. Behind him came scientists and medical personnel and communication specialists. All of them had trained for this moment. All of them knew that their actions would be remembered for centuries. The airlock at the end of the docking tube opened, and the humans stepped into the Valorian station for the first time. The Valorians were waiting for them. 6 of them, tall, elegant. Their skin was silver and smooth. Their eyes were completely black, with no white showing. Their bodies seemed made for grace and movement. They wore clothing that looked like it had grown on them rather than being put on them. The lead Valorian stepped forward. His name was Ambassador Keller. He had been chosen to conduct this first meeting because he had 300 years of diplomatic experience. He had handled negotiations with a dozen different species. He understood the protocols. He understood the psychology of first contact. To Keller, humans looked wrong. Their bodies were thick and inefficient. Their skin was pale and bare. Their faces had too many expressions visible at once. They seemed unfinished, like a species still in the process of developing. But Keller was a professional. He extended his hand in the human gesture that the embassy staff had briefed him on. Linda took it. The touch was brief, and the grip was neither strong nor weak. It was neutral. "I am Ambassador Keller," he said. His voice was calm and controlled. "You are the first of your kind we have encountered. What do you call your species?" Linda kept her voice steady. "I am Captain Linda Martinez. I represent the United Earth Coalition. My people are humans. We come from the planet Earth, which orbits a yellow star. We come to establish peaceful relations." Keller gestured toward the conference chamber. The humans followed. As they walked, they saw the station itself. The technology was advanced far beyond what humans possessed. The walls glowed with soft light. The corridors were clean and empty. There was a sense of order and control that seemed absolute. The conference chamber was large. Screens covered the walls. Valorian military officers stood at various positions. The message was clear without anyone saying it. The Valorians were powerful. The humans were nothing. The presentation began. Ambassador Keller displayed maps of Valorian space. 47 worlds under direct control. 312 systems with Valorian military presence. Millions of ships in active service. Weapons that could destroy planets. The numbers were designed to impress and intimidate. Keller then displayed images of other species that had come into contact with the Valorian Empire. Most had become part of client states. A few had chosen independence on worlds far from Valorian territory. All of them had accepted the simple fact of Valorian superiority. "Your world is primitive," Keller said without unkindness. "Your technology is crude. Your military is insignificant. However, we are willing to establish formal relations. You will follow Valorian protocols. You will recognize Valorian authority in all matters concerning space travel and interstellar affairs. In return, we will offer you knowledge and technology." Andrew Cross did not shift in his chair, but his jaw tightened slightly. He had expected something like this. He had known that arrogance would be part of the first contact. But knowing something and experiencing it were different things. Linda spoke before Cross could respond. "We appreciate the offer of knowledge. Humans learn quickly. We have progressed from animal-level existence to space travel in less than 3,000 years. Our technology may be crude now, but that will change. We are asking for peaceful trade and mutual respect." Keller made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been something else. Mutual respect is earned through power. You have minimal power. Therefore, we extend respect based on our choice to do so, not based on your merit. Linda felt anger rise in her chest. She forced it down. She was a military officer. She had discipline. But discipline did not mean accepting insults. Discipline meant accepting insults and responding with clarity. "Humans come from a world where everything tries to kill you," Linda said slowly. "The gravity is heavy. The animals are predators. The diseases are deadly. We have survived not through passive acceptance, but through resistance. We have built civilization as a fortress against a hostile planet. We understand conflict. We understand desperation. We understand what it means to fight when victory is impossible." Andrew Cross watched the expressions on the Valorian faces remain completely unchanged. That was the problem with aliens. You could never tell if they understood what you were saying. But Keller's next words suggested he had heard every word. "Are you threatening the Valorian Empire?" Keller's voice was still calm, but something had changed in it. Something harder. Linda stood. "No. I am telling you the truth about what humans are. I am suggesting that you learn who you are dealing with before you make decisions based on assumption." There was silence in the chamber. The Valorian military officers did not move. The humans stood firm. Keller made a decision. "This meeting is concluded. You will return to your vessel. The Valorian Council will discuss what you have told us and make a formal decision about your species." The humans left the chamber. They walked back through the station, back through the docking tube, back to their ship. Linda could feel the weight of what had just happened. They had not made friends. They had made enemies through honest speech. As the human vessel undocked and began to move away from the station, Linda sat in her command chair and thought about her daughter again. Whatever happened next, whatever the Valorians decided, humanity had made itself known. The galaxy would never treat them as if they did not exist. That was something, but it was not nearly enough. The stars seemed to watch and wait. 2 weeks after the meeting with Ambassador Keller, Commander Patricia Chun sat at her tactical station and waited for a normal day. The human fleet was small. 1 combat-capable ship, 2 support vessels, 3 scientific research ships. Not an impressive force, but it was what humanity had. Patricia Chun had been a fighter pilot for the Valorian Empire before she defected to work with humans. She had seen Valorian military tactics. She understood their formations and their strategies. She knew their weaknesses because she had studied them for years. What she did not expect was for those weaknesses to be tested quite so soon. The alarm came at 0-8-30 hours. Patricia's console lit up with warning indicators. 16 signatures. No, 17. No, 21. The numbers kept climbing. "Captain!" Patricia's voice cut through the bridge. "We have multiple hostile contacts inbound. They are forming attack pattern Vector 7. Heavy military configuration." Valorian signature confirmed. Captain Linda Martinez did not hesitate. "General quarters. All hands to battle stations. Do not raise shields until weapons are locked and ready. Reroute emergency power to engines." The human ship came alive. Every person who had trained for combat moved into position. The crew knew that this was not a drill. The Valorians had come to test them, and the test had started. Patricia analyzed the incoming force. 5 major warships. Configuration suggested heavy weapons and advanced shielding. Against the human vessel, they were overwhelming force. The humans had one major advantage, and one only. They were desperate. "First wave incoming in 90 seconds, Patricia reported. "They are maintaining formation Delta. Single attack vector from the port side." Linda looked at the tactical display and made a decision that a Valorian commander would never make. She ordered evasive action that violated every principle of naval conduct that humans had been taught. The human ship twisted in space using a maneuver called the Desperate Spiral. It was a turning move that burned fuel at triple the normal rate. It was reckless and wasteful and completely unexpected. The first Valorian strike hit empty space. "Weapons," Linda commanded. "Full salvo. Primary target is the lead vessel on the left formation. Do not adjust for accuracy. I want volume of fire." The human weapons systems opened fire. The human ship had no right to be in combat against 5 Valorian warships. The weapons were inferior. The shielding was minimal. The power output was a fraction of what the Valorians carried, but the human weapons fired in a pattern that no Valorian commander expected. They did not fire in elegant volleys spaced for maximum impact. They fired continuously, overlapping, saturating the space where the Valorian shields were strongest. One of the Valorian ships took a direct hit. Its shields flared and collapsed. Energy bolts struck the hull. The Valorian vessel broke formation and began to lose altitude. One target damaged. Patricia shouted, "They are pulling back for reassessment." But the other 4 Valorian ships did not hesitate. They regrouped and came in harder. Their weapons were more powerful. Their shields could absorb more damage. They moved with perfect coordination because they had trained together for centuries. Andrew Cross, commanding the human weapons, worked his console like a man fighting for his life. Because he was. They all were. The human ship shook as Valorian weapons struck the shields. The energy discharge lit up the bridge. Alarms sounded. The shields held because they had been augmented and improved through every technological trick that humans had ever learned. Patricia saw the second Valorian vessel moving to flank their position. She understood the tactic immediately. The Valorians were going to trap the human ship in a crossfire. The human vessel would not survive 30 seconds of fire from 2 directions. "Captain, flanking maneuver incoming at 2 o'clock. They are trying to box us." Linda did not give the order that any Valorian captain would give. She did not order a retreat. She did not order evasive action to create distance. She ordered a direct approach. Full reverse thrust on starboard engines. Forward thrust on port. Nose toward their incoming vessel. All weapons target the approaching hostile. The human ship twisted again. It was a maneuver that defied the principles of space combat. It was inefficient. It was unstable. But it was direct. The human weapons tore into the approaching Valorian vessel. The shields buckled under the volume of fire. They collapsed. The human weapons struck the hull of the Valorian ship. Systems exploded. Atmosphere vented into space. The Valorian vessel broke formation and retreated. Now 3 of the original 5 Valorian ships remained in combat. They had lost their formation advantage. Their tactics had been disrupted by an opponent that refused to obey the rules of engagement that every other species understood. Patricia watched the data streams and saw something remarkable. The human ship was going to lose this engagement. The damage was accumulating. The shields were weakening. The reactor output was dropping. But the Valorians did not know that. The Valorians were still treating the engagement as a test they were going to win with minimal effort. They had not yet understood that the humans were willing to die to prove a point. Andrew Cross fired on the nearest Valorian target with everything the human ship had. His hands were steady. His voice was calm. His determination was absolute. 2 more Valorian hits struck the human ship. The bridge lights flickered. One console exploded in sparks. A crew member went down, blood running from a wound on his forehead. That the human weapons hit. Again, and again, and again. The 4th Valorian ship, having sustained critical damage, broke formation and began accelerating away from the engagement. The last 2 Valorian vessels held position for 5 more seconds. And then they too retreated. The engagement was over. Patricia Chum looked at the tactical display and saw 7 hostile contacts now accelerating away at maximum speed. The human ship was damaged but operational. The shields were down to 18%. The reactor was operating in emergency mode. The weapon systems were depleted. But the human ship was still in the fight. Linda sat in her command chair and took a single moment to breathe. Then she straightened up and opened the communication channel to the Valorian station. When Ambassador Keller's face appeared on the screen, Linda spoke with absolute certainty in her voice. "We did not attack you. We did not start this engagement, but we finished it. We are not the species you thought we were. We will not surrender to superior numbers. We will not accept defeat through violence. If your people choose to recognize this truth and establish peaceful relations, we can prosper together. If your people choose to continue attacking, we will continue defending. And we will not stop. We will fight until nothing remains. This is what humans are. She closed the channel. Behind her, the human crew began assessing damage. There was much to do, but they had won. Against superior odds and advanced weapons, they had one dot in the Valorian territories. Every sensor had tracked the engagement. Every ship that received the data understood the implications. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had defeated a Valorian military force. The Valorian Empire initiated a complete investigation. Every data point about humanity was pulled from every source. Satellite images of Earth, human broadcasts, scientific records, military documents, historical archives. Everything was compiled and analyzed. Commander Andrew Cross was brought to a research facility on the Valorian station. He was not treated as a prisoner. He was treated as a subject of scientific study. The Valorians wanted to understand the human mind. They wanted to know how a primitive species could do what humans had done. A Valorian scientist named Dr. Lysander conducted most of the analysis. Lysander was old, even by Valorian standards. She had studied biology and physics for 400 years. She had worked with a dozen different species. She had never encountered anything like humans. The first thing Lysander did was examine human physiology. She took genetic samples and ran them through every analysis available. What she found was striking. Human DNA was less efficient than Valorian DNA. Humans processed information more slowly. Humans had shorter lifespans. Humans required more food and sleep, but humans were survivors. Every system in the human body was designed to keep them alive. The immune system was aggressive and adaptive. The nervous system was dense and redundant. The musculature was strong and flexible. Humans were built to survive, not to flourish in comfort. Lysander presented these findings to the council. Her voice was steady, but her color had shifted to pale blue, which indicated serious concern. The human body is a product of a hostile environment, Lysander said. The planet Earth is a death world. Gravity at 23% above Valorian standard. The magnetosphere is weak. Solar radiation penetrates the atmosphere. The biosphere evolved with predatory arms races of extreme intensity. She displayed images of Earth, pictures of the surface, storms raging across oceans, mountains covered in vegetation, creatures with teeth and claws, viruses and bacteria and parasites designed to infect and kill. Humans evolved in this environment, Lysander continued. Every other species in their world tried to kill them, and they survived. They survived through intelligence and cooperation and a willingness to use violence when necessary. This is not learned behavior. This is encoded into their basic biological structure. The council watched in silence. How did they achieve space travel? Asked Elder Council Member Varth. How did a species from such a hostile world advance quickly enough to reach space? Lysander displayed more data. Human history, wars, plagues, famines, civilizations rising and falling. Their recorded history spans only 15,000 years, Lysander said. That is a trivial amount of time. In that time, they have gone from primitive existence to space travel. They have created weapons of mass destruction. They have achieved nuclear fusion. They have built computers that rival our own in some respects. Their rate of advancement is anomalous. She pulled up more images. Pictures of human soldiers. Images of human cities. Video recordings of human conflicts. They advance through conflict and competition. When one group of humans competes against another, the conflict drives innovation. The winners take the resources of the losers. This creates constant pressure to improve, constant pressure to develop new technology, constant pressure to fight better and smarter. An older council member named Gathel spoke up. Why did they not destroy themselves? Why did they not use their weapons to eliminate their own species? Lysanda adjusted her display. They came close. Very close. Multiple times. But each time, enough humans decided that survival was better than victory. There is a trait in humans that is unusual in advanced species. They form emotional bonds that override logic. Parents will die to protect children. Soldiers will die to protect fellow soldiers. A human will sacrifice their life for someone they love. She showed video recordings from human history. A soldier holding a position against overwhelming odds so his unit could escape. A mother running into fire to save her child. A human scientist sacrificing their life to contain a disease outbreak. This is not strategy, Lysanda said. This is not logical military behavior. This is emotional response. And it has saved humanity multiple times. When they should have destroyed themselves, love and sacrifice kept them alive. Elder Vorath leaned forward. What are the implications for our empire? Lysanda did not answer immediately. She was carefully choosing her words. The implications are severe, she finally said. Humans are designed by their environment to survive. They are designed to adapt. They are designed to fight when they cannot win. In the engagement with our military force, they use tactics that no other species would use. They refused to retreat. They refused to surrender. They fought knowing they could lose. And they won. Because we underestimated them, Vorath said. No, Lysanda responded. Because we misjudged what humans are capable of. We assumed their primitive technology meant they were primitive in all ways. But humans are primitive in technology and advanced in behavior. They are willing to do things that we would never do. They are willing to sacrifice things that we would never sacrifice. She displayed one final set of data. The engagement between the human ship and the Valorian military force, broken down moment by moment. Watch their tactical decisions, Lysanda said. Each maneuver violates the principles of efficient space combat. Each maneuver burns fuel at triple the normal rate. Each maneuver is tactically unstable. But each maneuver was exactly what they needed to do to survive. They did not fight like us. They fought like desperate creatures that had nothing to lose. And desperate creatures are dangerous. The Council watched the engagement play out. Watched the human ship twist and turn in ways that defied logic. Watched the human weapons fire in patterns that made no tactical sense but overwhelming practical sense. Watched the Valorian military force be forced to retreat. Elder Vorath made a statement that changed everything. They are not a threat to the Empire in its current state. But in 50 years, when they have developed our technology level, they will be the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. And we have just taught them that we can be defeated. The council chamber went silent. The implication was clear. Humanity had arrived at the threshold of the galaxy, just as they were developing the capability to become powerful. The Valorian Empire had shown them that power was possible. And they had shown that they could hurt the Empire. The faction that had attacked the human ship, the Collective of the Strong, faced investigation. Their leaders were arrested. Their actions were declared rogue operations that did not represent Valorian policy. But the damage was done. Humanity knew now that the Valorians were not invincible. The galaxy knew that a primitive species could defeat advanced military force. Every other faction, every other species, began analyzing what this meant for the balance of power. Back on the human ship, Linda Martinez sat in her command chair and thought about the future. She had won a battle. That was significant. But she understood that the real war had just begun. The galaxy had noticed humanity. The galaxy was now afraid. That fear would either make them allies or enemies. There would be no neutral position. Humans had changed the balance of power through their willingness to fight and die. The stars had witnessed the emergence of a new force in the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months after the engagement, the Valorian Empire made a formal decision. They would establish full diplomatic relations with humanity. They would share technology. They would establish trade agreements. They would, in effect, integrate humans into their sphere of influence before humans decided to act against them. It was an admission of fear dressed up as boss. Generosity. Linda Martinez now held the rank of Admiral of the Combined Earth Defense Force. She wore the uniform with the weight of history on her shoulders. The decisions she made would affect billions of humans yet to be born. The choices she made would determine whether humanity flourished or was consumed by the larger forces of the galaxy. She sat across from Ambassador Keller in a newly expanded diplomatic chamber. The chamber had been built to accommodate both human and Valorian delegates in equal space. That was significant. Humans were no longer being met as inferiors. They were being met as equals. Keller was older than he had been at their first meeting. The stress showed in the way his color shifted. He was afraid. "Your request for advanced weapon specifications has been approved," Keller said, sliding a data crystal across the table. "These are defensive systems only. The Council has decided that humans need them." Linda picked up the crystal and nodded. "Thank you. The Council has made a wise choice." "There are concerns," Keller said. "The collective of the strong grows more restless. There are factions who see your military victories as a threat rather than a curiosity. Some recommend a preemptive strike before you become too strong to challenge." Linda leaned back in her chair. She had expected this. She had known that fear would drive the decision-makers. If the Valorian Empire attacks humanity, the collective will face a problem they have not considered, Linda said quietly. "They will not defeat us quickly. They will not defeat us at all. And every other species watching will ask themselves why a primitive human species is able to resist the Valorian Empire. The answer will not comfort them." Keller understood the implication. If humans could fight the Valorian Empire to a standstill, what did that mean for all the other subject species? What did that mean for the stability of the Empire? "There will be rebellion," Keller said. "There will be alliance," Linda corrected. "Every species that sees humans as equals will want humanity as an ally. The Valorian Empire's greatest strength has been its supremacy. Once that supremacy is questioned, it can be broken." Keller left the chamber without another word. The meeting was over, but the decision had been made, and that decision would spread through the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within a month, the news was everywhere. Humanity had defeated the Valorian military. The Valorian Council had granted humanity equal status. The Empire was negotiating with a primitive species like they were equals. The reactions varied. Some species saw the change as an opportunity to test the Valorians themselves. Other species saw it as proof that breaking free from Valorian control was possible. The older powers in the galaxy, the ones who had been forced to accept Valorian supremacy generations before, suddenly wondered if the balance of power had shifted. The Krell Confederation, an alliance of species predating the Valorian Empire, sent a diplomatic mission directly to Earth. The journey took 3 months, but they arrived with offers. Advanced technology, trade agreements, military coordination. The message was simple: align with us, and together we can challenge Valorian supremacy. Back on Earth, the civilian government made the decision to accept. Humans would gain the benefit of advanced knowledge. Humans would join an alliance that could provide protection. Humans would no longer be alone, but the cost was clear. Humans were now committed to potentially fighting the Valorian Empire. Humans were now part of a larger conflict that had been brewing for generations. Linda stood in a space dock above Earth and watched a new human warship complete its final systems check. The ship was designated the Independence. It was the first human warship to be built with technology received from the Krell Confederation. The design showed a synthesis of human engineering principles and Krell technological systems. The ship was faster than any Valorian vessel of similar size. The weapons had a firing rate that Valorian designers had never considered. The shields had been optimized through human mathematical approaches that the Krell had never tried. The ship was unique. The ship was dangerous. A junior officer named David Anderson stood at attention on the bridge of the Independence. Anderson had been selected as the ship's first tactical officer. He was young, barely 25 years old, but he had served on Linda's flagship during the engagement with the Valorian military. He understood combat. He understood the stakes. David watched the final diagnostics complete and thought about his younger brother. His brother was 12 years old. By the time his brother became an adult, humans would have grown much stronger. By the time his brother was old enough to serve in the military, humans might be the dominant force in their region of space. That was worth fighting for. That was worth potentially dying for. Back in the Valorian territories, the Empire's High Council continued its debates. Some members advocated for immediate military expansion and total conquest of human space. Others pushed for deeper integration and alliance. The wisest voices, however, suggested a different approach entirely. Allow humanity to develop. Do not interfere. Do not attack. Let humanity grow and strengthen and evolve into whatever they would become, because the data was clear. When humans faced conflict, they became stronger. They became more innovative. They became more determined. Every attack on humanity would only accelerate their development. Every challenge would make them harder to beat. The only strategy that might work was to leave them alone and hope that they chose not to view the Valorian Empire as an enemy. But humanity had a long memory for those who attacked them. And the Valorians had attacked first. Linda sat in her office on the station above Earth and reviewed the latest reports. More species seeking contact. More technology flowing in from multiple sources. More military units training with Valorian equipment and Krell systems. More humans joining the military every single day. The galaxy had been stable for 10,000 years. That stability was ending. New power structures were emerging. Old alliances were fracturing. The future was uncertain, and humans would play a larger role in that future than anyone could have predicted. The photograph of her daughter still hung on Linda's wall. Sarah was 6 years old now. In 50 years, Sarah would be a woman living in a galaxy where humans held real power. In 50 years, the decisions made now would have determined whether humans were respected or dominated. Linda had made her choice. She had chosen to fight. She had chosen to refuse subservience. She had chosen to believe that humans had something worth defending. The galaxy was changing. The Empire was being challenged. And humans, unlikely and improbable and desperate, had stepped forward into the center of history. The stars turned slowly in the darkness. And far below, on the world called Earth, children learned stories about the Admiral, who stood up to the galaxy and refused to back down. That was the beginning of a new age, and no one could predict how it would end.